Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me once again for the next issue, I guess, in this webinar series that I've been running these past several weeks in the midst of everybody being asked to stay at home while we're all facing the same viral pandemic. I'm very excited to have a couple of guest presenters joining me this week. We're very fortunate to have Allison Roberts, who is the co-founder and CEO of Fastercise LLC, along with her father, Denis Wilson, MD, who is the developer of Fastercise and the co-founder of Fastercise LLC as well. Mostly the two of them are going to be presenting on this concept of what Fastercise is. And I think that you will be very impressed and very encouraged to give it a try for yourself, as have I, since I first became acquainted with it, I guess about 6 months ago or so, when I saw Dr. Wilson present on the topic at a conference I attended last fall. So I'll leave it at that. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but I'd like to introduce at this point now Dr. Denis Wilson, who will give us his insights into this wonderful new approach to staying fit and healthy as we all stay at home right now.
Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate that. Yeah, you're definitely one of the early adopters, I guess they call them. But anyway, we really appreciate both Allison and I. It's been great getting to know you, and also we appreciate the support you've given us in getting this started. So yeah, we're really excited about it. It's one of those things where a little something can make a big difference. What we're talking about is just a few minutes of exercise at the right times during the day, and it's so little that you might not think it's really going to make that much of a difference, but it can make a difference. It can make a huge difference, and we're going to discuss just a little bit why that is. So I'm going to share my screen here to show you a little diagram to help make this a little bit easier to see. So the thing to understand is that you eat in order to live, and you need power to live, and you also have to breathe. So you take in food, you take in air, and with air and food you generate power. When you breathe air in, all that respiration, but water and the oxygen actually gets converted into cells called mitochondria. And that process where that happens inside your cells is called cellular respiration. And so what do mitochondria do? The work of the mitochondria is to convert food and oxygen into power. And that 90% of the power that you use to generate, that our bodies generate to power your body, that your body generates to power your body, comes from the mitochondria. So do you feel tired? Do you feel like you have plenty of energy? You know, whether you feel how much energy you feel like you have and how much energy you actually do have has everything to do with your mitochondria. Has a whole lot to do with that. Well, it turns out that it doesn't only determine how much energy you make. It actually has a lot to do with your immune response, and it actually controls to a large degree whether your body attacks itself like an autoimmunity or whether it attacks like pathogens like viruses and bacteria, things like that. That's controlled by the mitochondria, which is kind of amazing to a large extent. So it's super important when it comes to immunity. Okay, so if the work of the mitochondria is to convert food into power, then the work is the food and the workers are the mitochondria. And one way to overwhelm a worker is to give it more work than it can handle. So like if you have too much work and not enough workers, then you can get overwhelmed. and and that can cause problems. So when people stay at home, let's say, and they start eating a lot of food, they start overeating. They eat when they're not hungry, let's say, for example, or they're eating and they satisfy their hunger and they keep eating and eating and eating way past the time that they're full or satisfied. They're actually overeating, and that's providing an excess amount of work for the mitochondria. And studies have shown that when that happens, the body actually doesn't, the mitochondria actually get damaged from that. They actually leak something called reactive oxygen species, and they actually create an unhealthy immune response. Not only do they not attack pathogens the way they should, they actually attack the body to a degree and cause sickness and damage and disease inside the body. So, one thing that happens when people are in a shutdown situation where they're not going outside is that their activity goes down. And because when a person's activity goes down, they don't need as much mitochondria because they're not, there's not as much of a demand for mitochondria. So their mitochondria will actually shrink in size and number. So what I'm trying to say is a really good prescription for overwhelming your immune system and overworking your immune system and getting fatter and getting sicker and getting more tired is to eat a whole bunch of food and not do any activity. So basically a sedentary lifestyle where you're overeating, that's like a terrific prescription for getting fatter and sicker. And so I'll just touch on one more thing here. Have you ever noticed when you eat a bunch of food, you tend to get a little bit tired? You tend to get a little bit, it may be that you're eating so much food that you're overwhelming the mitochondria and it's getting damaged or leaking energy. And that might be part. A lot of us think, oh, well, it's because you've got so much blood in your digestive system, and not your muscles, and that's why you get tired. But it actually may be that we're actually overwhelming these mitochondria too much. Anyway, let's look at a different way to overwhelm the mitochondria. Now, this is a different. So you can overwhelm your mitochondria with food, and that's a bad thing. That can cause an unhealthy situation. But let's say you don't eat as much food. When you stop eating as much food, the work your mitochondria have to do goes down because you're not relying so much on digesting your food. And you could instead, when you stop eating so much, you start to get hungry, and you're actually starting to snack on your fat, and you're actually mobilizing your own fat stores, which is easier work on the mitochondria than it is digesting food. But anyway, when you start doing this kind of activity that Allison will show you in a moment, you demand, when you do this kind of exercise, you can increase the amount of energy you use 120-fold from baseline within a matter of seconds. So you go from zero, it's like going from 0 miles per hour to 120 miles per hour in 60 seconds. So it's 120 times greater energy usage than we are doing sitting here. So I'm sitting here at 0 miles an hour. Allison is about to ramp up to about 120, real easy. So when you do that and you generate all this demand, you're demanding all this power, that sends a signal, and you're using up so much oxygen and you're using up so much power. That sends a signal. You start to get winded. When you're using up more power than your body can generate or than your mitochondria can generate, you start to get winded. You start to get short of breath. You start gasping for air. And if you get really winded and take a really deep breath, gasping for air, then that's a really good sign that you have thoroughly overwhelmed your mitochondria, which is a good thing because it stimulates your body to make more for tomorrow. So you're not as overwhelmed tomorrow as you are today. So whereas this food, overwhelming your body, overwhelming your mitochondria with food can actually be damaging to the mitochondria and weaken them. Overwhelming your body with not an excessive amount, but just the right amount, an amount to get you winded and a gasping deep breath, that's enough to actually stimulate your mitochondria to increase in size and number, which is a fantastic prescription for getting your body back. So we like to say, snack on your fat, get your body back. Because what you're doing is you're increasing your workers a lot, and you're decreasing your work a lot. So with this a little bit of thing, so when you get hungry, you do this Fastercise, it actually is really, really great for your health. One last thing I'll say about that is when you generate that much energy that fast, it generates so much, it generates so much energy from your fat stores and from your glycogen stores or your carbohydrate stores in your body. It releases so much energy. It's like on a par with snacking. It's on a par with eating something. It's on a par with even having a meal. So it's like you're having a meal, but only from your own stores, not from something you're putting in your mouth. You're snacking on your fat. You're snacking on your stores. And when you do that, your appetite will go away. It'll go away for an hour. It'll go away for 2 hours. So you can actually push off your hunger. So you don't have the work, you don't have as much work, and you're strengthening your mitochondria. And that's a really good way. And not only that, you get something that called lactate that increases your focus, your memory, your mental capacities. So anyway, you get it's a really good prescription for getting stronger and healthier instead of fatter and sicker, and thinner and more muscular because you're burning fat and building muscle at the same time. So I think I'll turn the time over to Allison now.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks for that scientific explanation. So one thing that my dad and I are pretty clear on, and we're very committed to, is we believe that everyone deserves to be happy. And we believe that being healthy really increases your likelihood of being happy. So we've designed a fitness program that you can do without changing your clothes or changing your routine. And we house this fitness program in a Fastercise app that's able to be downloaded both on the Google Play and Apple stores. But I'm just going to kind of give you a high-level explanation of what the fitness program looks like, because there's a ton of science backing up Fastercise, but the application of this is actually very simple and very easy to do. And just from my personal experience, I used Fastercise to lose the baby weight from when I had my baby boy. So he's about 21 months now, almost 2. But I used this program to lose about 30 pounds of baby weight that I gained during my pregnancy. And then I decided to take it one step further, and I entered a bodybuilding competition 8 months after having my baby, just doing Fastercise. So speaking from personal experience, like, this program can make a huge difference in your life. It's very simple. It only takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day. So that being said, what does it look like throughout the day to do the Fastercise program? Essentially, we like to time just 1-minute bouts of exercise according to your appetite. So when you wake up in the morning and you're kind of hungry for breakfast, we recommend doing 1 minute of shivering. We've termed this exercise Shivercise, but it's basically mimicking shivering on an intentional basis. And you can do this without being cold, and I'll show you how to do that. But then, so after you push off your hunger with Shivercise, you might not need to eat again for like 30 minutes to 2 hours. This exercise works so well at tapping into your body's stored body fat that you won't feel hungry. So it's like intermittent fasting without the pain and anguish and hanger, so to speak. So then that's how we time it. You get hungry and you do 1 minute of Shivercise. And then you can eat after that when your hunger returns. And then within an hour after eating, we recommend doing a 1 to 2 minute tighter routine. And this tighter size is basically mimicking stretching in the morning. So you think about it, sometimes you wake up and it's just like really really hard stretch, and sometimes you contort in like really weird ways. It's like, why does this feel good? It's actually just the body's way of strengthening those muscles. So by clenching the muscle like this, you know, shorten it, clench it really hard, and then tighten it as hard as you can. That's one of the body's fastest and easiest ways to build muscle. And so that cycle just repeats itself. Before you eat, you push off your hunger with a minute of shiver size, and then you'll eat. And then after you've eaten, within about an hour, you're going to do a tighter size routine. And depending on how many times you eat throughout the day, if you have like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you'll do this cycle 3 times. Excuse me. So it's pretty simple. Now I'm going to show you what these exercises actually look like. I'm just going to stand up here. So for shiver size, the important thing is to just move as fast as possible. So the movements don't have to be really big. You know, if you're shivering, you think you're not doing this. You're doing just like really, really tiny movements. So when you're shiver sizing, you're gonna want to think, try to just move your body as fast as possible in really, really small ways. So the easiest way to get started with this is what we call the running man. I'm gonna back up so you can see my feet as well. So you can just act, you're running in place, kind of like this, but instead of lifting your feet up off the ground, just lift your heels up. So just lift your heels up off the ground. So you can do like bigger motions, but then get smaller and smaller and smaller until it's almost imperceptible, but you're moving your heels up off the ground slightly, and then you're shaking your arms back and forth slightly. And now I'm just going to demonstrate what this would look like. Again, you would do this for 1 minute. So just that little bit of exercise has got me a little bit winded, but excuse me, can be very effective. I will say you don't have to be able to go this fast right away. When you're getting started, it can be a little bit more of like finessing, like how do I even move my body that fast? And I've been doing Fastercise for over 1.5 years now, so I've got a lot of practice. So just try to go as fast as you can, and you'll find by the end of that minute, you should be out of breath. You should, you know, oftentimes I'll just like lean over, have to catch a deep breath like you would if you just went and sprinted like 100 yards or something. You should be out of breath. And the reason you want to be out of breath, that's a sign that you've overwhelmed your mitochondria. So if you're just like sitting at a computer and nothing's happening, you can maintain your breath indefinitely. But if you're doing shiver size and you're overwhelming those mitochondria, you're not going to be able to get enough air fast enough because your mitochondria are like, give me more, give me more. And that's going to help prompt the mitochondria growth, which is, you know, as Dad mentioned before, those are the powerhouses of your cells. And that's how you're going to increase your immunity, you're going to increase your strength and your ability to burn fat as well. So that's shiver size, and you can do a lot of different kinds of shiver size. So I just showed you the running man version, but we also have some other fun ones, like a little bit. This one is called shimmy size. So you can think about it, shimmy like this, but then you just do it really, really fast, and you like rotate your shoulders into it, hips as well. And this will get your deltoids, your core, and like the outer edges of your hips. So you can do shimmy size, and then there are also some chair ones you can do. It's down a little bit more. So, for instance, if you're at the desk, if you want to get up, it's called the drummer. So you just lift your feet up off the ground with your heels, and just do this really tightly. So this way, and I'm just now remembering Dave, or Dr. Stuckey, was the one who came up with this exercise. So we've adopted his recommendation. So that's the drummer. And then we also have some floor exercises. This one we call the bear crawl. So if you've ever been in football and you had the bear crawl across the field like this, it's kind of just walking really rapidly in place or back and forth like this. So depending on what muscles you want to target, you can choose all different kinds of shiver size. Again, the important thing is to just do these for 1 minute at a time until you have to catch a deep breath, like I am now. Okay, So now we've done sugar size. Now we're going to move on to the tighter size part. And as I mentioned before, the important thing with tighter size is to clench your muscle as hard as possible. So if you're trying to clench your bicep, for example, you're not going to try to clench it like this. You're going to try to clench it like this, because you're taking all of the muscle fibers in your muscle and you're overlapping them as much as possible. And then you're going to tighten them as hard as you can. So that's going to engage more of your muscle cross bridges, and it's also going to have more force, which will help your muscles grow larger. So if you want to just go ahead and do this with me, you can just do kind of a power pose here and tighten your biceps as hard as possible for about 3 to 5 seconds. You shouldn't be able to tighten them as hard as you can for much longer than that. If you can hold it for longer than that, you're not doing it hard enough. So again, you're just going to clench it as hard as you can for about 3 to 5 seconds. And as you can tell, I'm slowly stretching out my arms like this, because you'll find you'll be met with some resistance as you try to stretch your muscles out after doing tighter size, because all of those cross bridges are still very strongly engaged and they need a little bit of time to be able to release back. And that also, if you stretch your muscles out right after you tighten them really hard, you're going to prevent yourself from cramping, which I highly recommend, just a really pleasant experience. I didn't even know that my bicep could cramp like that. It has happened, so be careful. So those are, I'll just show you a quick full body routine that I typically start clients out with. So you do your biceps, and then you'll do your triceps. I'm just going to scoot this here. So you do your triceps by straightening your arms, and then you kind of just tighten it back like so. So you should, and I use my free hand as well sometimes to see if the muscle is tight, so you can tell if it's tight enough or not. So just tighten that. And then reach your hands in front of yourself, reach down towards the floor, and this will get your pectoral. So you reach down and then you cross your arms as you move up kind of in this direction, but you'll do cross, and then you'll cross them again and tighten, cross again, and cross again. So that's going to get your deltoids, I'm sorry, your pectorals. And then we move on towards deltoids. You go like up above your head and tighten your deltoids. And just kind of high five yourself, or slowly bringing it down, engaging it all along the way, but this is going to help you get all the different angles of your deltoid. And then we're going to do abs. So this is really easy, and this is something that I'll even do in the grocery store while I'm in line. Of course, like 6 feet away from other people. But you can just go ahead and tighten your abs, tighten them really hard while you're standing in place. And this should engage everything in your core. And then you'll do your back. So I like to bring my arms out to the side so I can get my upper back and shoulders as well as along my spine. And then you just arch your back as hard as you can to get all the muscles along your spine. And as you notice, I'm not doing this for long. It's just a few seconds, because that's as long as it takes to burn out. And then lastly, we'll finish up with lower body. So you can tighten your glutes, just stand in place and tighten as hard as you can. And then your quads, lock your legs, tighten your quads in here as hard as possible. Then you'll bend your legs slightly and clench along your hamstrings to get the other side of your legs. And then lastly, you'll come up on the balls of your feet and tighten your calves as hard as possible. Both straight on like this, pointing your toes in like this, and pointing them out like that. And that's it. And once you get used to doing this type of exercise, you'll be able to go through this routine in as little as like a minute or two. But it makes a big difference. Like, I did this when I was working at my day job before I quit to do Fastercise full time. And I would just go into an empty conference room and like do my flexes really quickly. I mean, you can even do them at your desk. You know, be proud, do it for you. But not all of us like that, you know, really social interaction of like, hey, I'm doing my exercises now, everybody. So either way works. But it's really fun. I've enjoyed doing Fastercise, and it's really refreshing too. I mean, you can do these in response to your hunger, but also in response to your fatigue. Like if you're working on a problem and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm beating my head against a wall, like I need some kind of energy. If you just do a hard stretch at your desk, you're going to be like so invigorated. You're going to get this boost of energy, and you'll be able to focus as well. So I know I just did a lot of talking, so maybe we can hand it back over to Dr. Stuckey.
No, that was great. Thank you. Thank you so much for the demonstration. I was going to just say, I really don't have too much to add other than to say that Dr. Wilson has written a fabulous book called The Power of Fastercise, which you can pick up lots of places everywhere, which really takes a nice deep dive into all of the science behind it. He briefly touched on sort of the high level view of what he had noticed in the research and in all the scientific studies that led him to the development of this approach to health and fitness. But the book really does do a very good job of detailing all of those particular underpinning details. So if that's how your mind works, if you appreciate having those details, the book is definitely worth a look. Apart from that, I just wanted to say if there were any questions, I don't think that there have been any thus far. We are certainly open to taking those and addressing them. And the other thing that I would say too is this is a practice that can just be continued to deepen into. It was very helpful for me, honestly, watching you demonstrate, Allison, how you go through the Fastercise again, because I sort of on my own have been practicing for 6 months and have noticed that I've really kind of veered further afar from that idea of just really tight controlled motion. And I'm definitely doing a lot when I'm doing it, but I think I'm doing too much in terms of the range of motion side of things. So that was helpful to see that again. And it's something that really can be developed and worked with and played with on your own. And you can come up with your own approaches to how you would like to be doing this type of work, targeted towards what areas of your body you feel like would benefit most from that type of particular focus. So let's see. Is this what? Sorry, go ahead, Dennis.
Let me. I just wanted to show you another thing real quick before we take that question. But along those lines, things do evolve a little bit. But I was there's one way that I do it is like in the morning. Not everybody would do it this way, but I hold my arms down like this, and I'll reach back with this arm, and I'll reach this way with this arm, and it takes a little bit of coordination. It takes some time, but you're reaching back with both arms, and you're basically kind of stretching with both arms, and you're getting your deltoids and your pecs at the same time, and then you're reaching back, and then you're kind of reaching back like that, and you're getting your deltoids, and you're getting your pectoralis muscle, and you're getting your lats. So just doing a big circle like that takes just like no time, but it gets all of your pecs, it gets all of your shoulders, it gets all of your lats, just doing that like that.
That's fabulous. There's 17 muscles that attach to the shoulder blade, so you're getting all of those with that one quick exercise.
Yeah, and then I wanted to show you one other thing I've been doing lately, and it's kind of crazy, but so like we have shiver size movement, fast movement, tighter size is static movement, but you can really kind of combine those. And I actually had to combine those because sometimes it's hard for me to get winded just doing shivering by itself. So I tighten and shiver. So basically you can tighten all the way down like that, and then you can shiver on top of that. But another thing you can do is kind of hilarious, but you just tighten all your muscles, and you can do this and people can't even tell you're doing it. So I'm just notice how natural this looks. Okay, I'm just gonna walk. But I'm walking, but I've got all my muscles tight. Like I'm walking, but I'm tightening all my muscles. And if you practice it, you can kind of tighten all your muscles while you're walking. So you could be walking down the street getting total tighter size, or you could be walking from your desk, from your car to the grocery store, and you're just getting a huge workout, like just on the way into the store. And then in addition to that, and this is what I do sometimes, you're tightening. It's like you're struggling through water or struggling through pudding or something. You're just doing like this Heisman Trophy kind of thing. Because it's like biceps, triceps, deltoids, biceps, triceps, deltoids, and it, man, I invite anybody who's watching just to do that when you get off of here, and do that for like 10 seconds and see how you feel after that.
This is great. It's the creativity that can go into, this is just an open canvas that we can create whatever we want to with it, whatever we feel inspired to create.
I agree. And one thing I like about it is, like, with that, you tighten yourself into how you want to look. For example, like you're basically sculpting your body. I mean, if you want to look a certain way, let's say you want to get your shoulders bigger, well, you tighten your shoulders. Let's say you want your back to be straighter, well, you straighten your back. Let's say, whatever. So your body is going to conform into whatever you're doing.
That's right. Yeah. So we did get one question, and it was, is this safe to practice when a woman is pregnant?
I would say so. Myself, Allison, you did while you were pregnant, right?
I mean, so when I was pregnant, you were writing the book. So like some of these ideas you were starting to gel. I have had clients who have done Fastercise while they're pregnant, and it works really well. Like, in fact, we say that Fastercise is incredibly effective for people who have maybe adverse health conditions such as, hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, diabetes, also arthritis. We even had some people who have amputations who've been able to do Fastercise where other options weren't available to them. The nice thing about Fastercise is you do it as well as you can. So it doesn't matter, like, if the world's fastest sprinter can do it this fast, but you can only do it this fast, that's okay, because the most important thing is that you do it as fast as you can. Or like, the world's best bodybuilder might be able to clench his muscles like really, really hard, and you can only do it like this, but that's okay. It doesn't matter, because as long as you clench it as hard as you can, that's the most important thing. And so anyone can see the benefits of Fastercise, just as long as you're listening to the signals that your body is sending back to you. And as we mentioned before, those signals are, if you're catching a deep breath and you're really winded, that's perfect. And then if your muscle is like really tired, maybe starts to burn or even give out, you know that you're clenching your muscles hard enough. So we really like to use the body's signals to maximize fitness efficacy, because if you are timing your exercise according to your appetite, you're listening to the signal your body is sending you about where your calories are. And if you listen to the body's signals about how hard you're exercising, you know that you're doing it right. So I hope that answers your question. You can always go onto our website. We also have more information there.
Yeah, I was going to say that we call these exercises instinctive exercises, and they're instinctive because it's what our bodies do naturally anyway. So, like, can a pregnant woman shiver? Yeah. Will a pregnant woman shiver if she gets cold enough? Yeah. And why will she do it? Because it's natural. Will a pregnant woman stretch when she wakes up in the morning? Every day. Every day she wakes up, and she should pay attention. All of us should pay attention. You might be surprised. I didn't pay attention, but when I started looking into this, I started paying attention. And you will find that every morning you wake up, I mean, if you're like me, maybe not every person's like this, but I kind of suspect they are. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to tighten your muscles. You're going to stretch. They call it pandiculation, and it's completely natural. So it's hard to conceive of anything natural. The only thing that would be safer than doing Fastercise while pregnant would be doing no activity during pregnancy. And personally, I don't actually think that is safe. I think the chances would be you would have inflammation, you would have less resistance to infection, you would have weakness, you wouldn't be prepared for child delivery. So no, I think it's terrific. And another thing too is I was thinking about this the other day. Like when you get cold and you're shivering, and you get so, you're really shivering, and you're making this weird breathing sound. You know, I mean, when you're really shivering like that and you're making that weird breathing sound, why are you making that breathing sound? Well, because you're winded. That's winded. You're shivering so hard that you're getting winded, and that's just what we're trying to mimic here with shiver styles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And can either of you or both of you speak to how you would recommend using Fastercise in conjunction with a time-restricted approach to eating, fasting?
Yeah, Allison, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So, with Fastercise, we do things a little bit differently than other programs. For instance, we do recommend components of intermittent fasting, but unlike other programs, we don't set a time limit. We set an appetite limit. So if you're getting really hungry, you should shiver size so you can direct your body to burn stored body fat. One thing to note with intermittent fasting, it can be really helpful to help bring down your body's inflammation, but you also need to remember, this is actually a breakthrough that Dad put into the book, but we believe that hunger is a sign that you're beginning to burn muscle because the body metabolizes muscle more easily than body fat, but shiver size bypasses the step of burning muscle and goes directly into burning fat. So by not eating, by combining by combining that eating with shiver size, you're going to be able to directly burn body fat for energy, and you're not going to burn muscle, and you're not going to be hungry, which is a really, really great benefit. So if you want to eat between like 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. with Fastercise, that's like completely doable. I mean, for me personally, I have no like huge fitness goal right now because I'm kind of where I want to be, but I typically only eat between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. anyway, because otherwise outside of that time range, I'm using my stored body fat and exercise to push off my hunger. And I only eat twice a day, so I eat lunch and dinner. So Dad, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, good answer there. I'm going to share my screen real quick here and show you something. So this is what we call the hunger pendulum or meal swinging. And so this is when you start to eat, you swing, you're over in this area, we call this the fed state. And then when the meal runs out, you start to get hungry. And you go into this non-fed state, and then you eat and you go into the fed state, you get hungry and you go into the non-fed state. And so you're swinging back and forth. And what's great about this is that when you, not only are you burning stored fat here, but you're increasing your sensitivity to the hormones that will build muscle. Not only are you building muscle over here, but you're increasing your sensitivity to the hormones that will burn fat when you get into the non-fed stage. So this, by swinging back and forth through this, you're maximizing your fat burning, and you're maximizing your muscle building, and you're swinging back and forth like that. And how are you keeping that momentum going? With these tiny little exercises at just the right time. So just like when you're pushing a girl on a swing, or a boy, a kid on the swing, and if you push them at just the right time, they keep going, and they might even go higher and higher and higher. And it's just a little push at just the right time. Well, that's Fastercise. Because if somebody you want to wait till the hormones are really ideal. Oh, I should tell you this. Shiver size increases the same exact hormones as this fasting state. In fact, sometimes I call shiver size high intensity fasting, because the same hormones, like when you fast, these 4 counter-regulatory hormones go up to mobilize your fat stores, to mobilize your glycogen. When you shiver size, those same 4 hormones go up to mobilize your fat stores, to mobilize your glycogen. They have the same purpose, and it's the same thing. You're just doing it more intensely. So So this is a perfect time to do some shivering because it mobilizes those fat stores. And so, like, to answer your question with the intermittent fasting, let's say somebody wants to spend hours and hours, like 16 hours in a row in this state right here. Fine, that's great. You can totally do that. So you can eat at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then instead of eating breakfast, you can shiver instead and snack on your fat from breakfast all the way through lunchtime. And really, that's ideal. But you can shiver size once, you can push off your hunger twice or even 3 times, and it's fine. I wouldn't really recommend though necessarily. It gets to a point when you're doing that sometimes it's hard to push off your hunger. Like, you'll shiver, but your glycogen is gone, and you try to shiver, and instead of your appetite going away for an hour, it goes away for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Allison?
I don't know, like, I wasn't familiar with how glycogen interacts with all of this, but like, you know, as Dad was mentioning, when you shiver size, the efficacy of how long you can push off your hunger goes down. So it's like, at first it might last for 2 hours, the second round might last 45 minutes, the last round might only last 15 minutes. So if you're not familiar with the glycogen store part of this discussion, just keep in mind that your body will use up its resources as you stay in the non-fed state that we call it. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Allison. So, you know, there's fat, and then there's carbohydrate, and we won't go into too much detail, but like Allison says, is like at first you have plenty of this carbohydrate storage we call glycogen. But at first you have plenty, and so that's great, and you mobilize that, and then you mobilize that, but eventually you it gets depleted. And so you try to mobilize that, and there's nothing to mobilize, and so you're like, oh snap, I'm hungry 15 minutes later. And so that might be a decent time to start your next meal if you want, because that way it preserves your muscle. You don't want to go around hungry because it'll waste your muscle. And then and there are some people that would argue with me about that, but I believe there's 7 reasons to believe that your hunger is a sign that you're burning muscle. And then so then you can eat this. But I just wanted to say one more thing about that though, is like one thing that I tend to do, that I've started doing is I've, you know, going that intermittent fasting thing and going with that time thing is really good when you want to lose your fat, when you want to lose a bunch of fat. That's really good thing to be doing. When you have gotten rid of a lot of your fat, you want to build a little bit more muscle, like what I want to do. What I've been doing is I'll wake up and I will titer size and shiver size for the first hour or 2, but then when I get pretty hungry, I will eat a little something. I will eat a smoothie or a hard-boiled egg or something like that. And so I swing a little bit into this, but I don't stay there very long before I start getting hungry again. So I'll shiver size again. I'll push off my hunger again before lunch. And so I'll shiver size and right before lunch and push it off like once or twice. And then when I start to get hungry again, I'll eat lunch. And then when I start to get hungry after lunch, I'll shiver size again. And then and then I'll eat. And then when I'm eating, when you're working or something and it's time to take a break, you know, you can get up, or just where you're sitting, and you can tighten all your muscles or do that astronaut walk or whatever you want to do. And doing that when you're feeling your oats, when you're feeling the power from your meal, when you've got some power, and actually sometimes you kind of feel like Superman, and you know, you feel like doing something active. That's a great time to do that titer size, because your body's all geared to do it. You know, that's why you feel like, you know, you're like, okay, you know, I've digested my food, I've got nutrients on board, and now it's time to go do whatever I was going to do. So that's a good time to do it.
And then I remember reading in your book, Dr. Wilson, too, that you made particular mention of paying attention to appetite and signals of hunger and stopping eating when you feel full. And can you just say a little bit about how that fits into this whole paradigm?
Yeah, exactly. The idea between, like one thing that's good about this kind of goes back to what we were talking about initially. So like when you eat up until you're full, you know, your body is satisfied. Your body is satisfied, and it's like, okay, great, we're good. But when you eat past that, you're sending your body a number of signals, and we already talked about, actually the science suggests that it actually shows that the mitochondria get damaged and they start leaking. It's kind of like a nuclear reactor that are super powerful, but our nuclear, you know, a nuclear reactor needs to maintain containment or it'll have a spill, and a spill are toxic and damaging. And that's the way mitochondria are. When mitochondria gets overfed, it gets leaky and it starts leaking reactive oxygen species, and it starts creating a spill, and it starts causing damage, and you can overdo it. So that's a bad thing. So you don't want to get into that, and you don't get into that when you don't overeat. So you don't want to overeat. You just want to eat enough to power up your body. The other thing it does is, I feel that it sends a signal to the body that you're relying on food. So there's two approaches to survival, and one approach is to hunker down on storage or your savings, if you want to call it that, and the other is to hunker down on your or to move forward with what I call forage, or your income. You know, it's just like money. You know, you can say, well, I need money, so I'm going to increase my income, or you can say, well, I'm just going to increase my savings. So there's two strategies, and they're both good. But sometimes when you focus so much on your savings, you don't really focus on your income, and then you're not really as prepared for a downturn as you would like it to be, or something. But if you focus too much on your income and not enough on your savings, that you can get into trouble that way too. But anyway, that's the way it is with when you overeat, you're basically telling your body, store as much fat as you can. This may be the last time you'll get to eat for a week. And so the forage is, you know, you're not going to have an opportunity to hunt. You can't farm. You know, there's no more berries on the tree. This is it. You've got to eat as much as you can, and so that you can survive for the next week. So if you overeat, then it's like store fat, store fat, store fat. It's just telling your body to store fat. And you don't need to store fat. Why store fat? Like, if you don't want to store fat, I mean, storing fat's great if a famine's coming. If you want to store fat, you can totally do that. But the other thing is, no, I don't want to store fat. I want to be more muscular and have less fat. You know, I want to be able to climb a coconut tree. I want to be able to put my shoes on without sitting in a chair. I want to be able to tie my shoes while I'm standing up, or I want to be able to play with my grandkids or whatever it is, you know, and I want to do that, and I don't really want to have excess fat. So I want to have more muscle and less fat. So the way we do that is, instead of answering our hunger with a ton of food, we answer our hunger with a ton of sugar. And what that does is it builds the muscle and snacks on the fat, which reduces the fat. And we call that forage mode.
Great. Thank you. Well, just to honor the time parameters that we set for this webinar, I think we can probably leave it there. Any last thoughts or parting commentary from either of the two of you that you'd like to share before we sign off?
I was just going to say that if anybody wants to try the Fastercise program themselves, you can just download the app, the Fastercise app, Fastercise, so like faster exercise, smushed together. The Fastercise app on Apple and Google Play, and we have all of our videos, recipes, daily routines, etc.
Great.
Yeah, and I'd like to say thank you so much for having us. We really are excited about this, and excited to be here with you today.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's really such an honor to have the two of you share the work that you've been working so diligently on, and sort of this new way of looking at exercise and metabolism, and how to help the body express health as optimally as possible. It's really wonderful work.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll do it for this week. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe and healthy out there. Bye-bye.